Even our Prime Minister is now very actively using this date, the 78 AD onwards, the Shaka dates in his letters and others. Kapila, a brother of Valluvar, was a contemporary of Karikala Chola and Karikala Chola matter. So we can perfectly date Kapila based on his other poem because he mentioned Kapila, Karikala Chola as well as Valluvar as his brother. There was another Valluvar, generally modern historians confuse about it. He was actually born in a village of Tirunayanakurchi of Kanyakumari district, not in Mylapore. So the Tiruvalluvar, the great Tamil poet who wrote Tirukkular, he was born only Mylapore and he was the brother of Kapila. He was not a king. There was another Valluvar and he was the king, ruled over Valavanadu territory. So these two we have to separate. The last session we have discussed about the chronological error of 1381 years in Indian chronology. Especially, there are the two major blunders committed by the modern historians. First, that Shaka and Shakanta. There were two different epochs, but they considered both as identical and assumed that the epoch of Shakaira commenced in 78 AD. Yes, we were even today, the Shaka calendar is being used and that has been even declared as national calendar after calendar reforms committee based on the recommendations of calendar reforms committee somewhere 1955-56. Even our Prime Minister is now very actively using this date, the 78 AD onwards, the Shaka dates in his letters and others. But our tradition indicates the epigraphic evidence, literary evidence, and various other evidences clearly indicates that there was an ancient epoch of Shakaira in 583 BC. This we have very detailed, we had detailed discussions in the last session. What I'll do, I have already given chronology from Mahabharata era to Vikramaditya in my last session, considering that this 1381 years of chronological error. I will take back, I want to take back to the chronology of Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka, because this 1381 years chronological error, how that is going to be reconciled with reference to the chronology of Tamil Nadu, that is not anything different from the Indian chronology. Because there are, we need to establish certain sheet anchors for the Tamil and Sri Lankan chronology, because both are interlinked. So I will explain how the Tamil chronology has been compromised with the 1381 years of chronological errors. The most ancient text available in Tamil literature is Tolkappiyam. Yes, prior to that, there is the Irayana Ragappuram. The Tolkappiyam gives the boundaries of the Tamil Nadu. It is actually the land of Tamils is located between Venkatadri, that is Tirupati, the hills of Tirupati, to Kanyakumari. So Tirupati, the Venkatadri, even today, it is the northern border of the Tamil Nadu, and the Kanyakumari, the end of the southern peninsula. So Tamil Nadu's the geography has been given in Tolkappiyam. And the sheet anchors. What are the sheet anchors for the Tamil chronology? First, we need to differentiate between Shaka and Shakanta. That is extremely important to understand the 661 years of chronological error. And then the Buddha Nirvana, Buddha attained Nirvana in 1864 BC. This I have already explained based on the Burmese and Sri Lankan inscriptions. So since the epoch has been taken based on, so we need to reconcile the Sri Lankan chronology that is interlinked with the Tamil chronology. This is the reason why I chose today to talk about the Tamil chronology and the Sri Lankan chronology. Now, another epoch, Theravada Buddhism, is very important. It is actually the second epoch of Second Buddhist Council. In 1765 BC, when Second Buddhist Council took place, The Buddhism split into two traditions, Mahasanghika tradition and Theravada tradition. Theravadins always claim they are the pure Buddha Dharma. That's why they started an epoch of Buddha Dharma starting from 1765 BC. Later, the epoch of Buddha Dhamma or epoch of Theravada Buddhism and Buddha Nirvana both got mixed up. That led to 100 years chronological error. That led to an error of that short chronology and long chronology. So we can easily explain the short chronology, long chronology, both are valid if we can differentiate between the epoch of Buddha Nirvana as well as the epoch of Theravada Buddhism. So these two are very important so that all those who are interested in Indian chronology, they should understand the difference between the epoch of Buddha Nirvana and the epoch of Theravada Buddhism, the 100 years difference between these two epochs. Then, of course, the epoch of Mahabharata war. It is also very important to have the epoch of Mahabharata war. Why? Because Puranas start the chronology starting from the Mahabharata. So whenever we are reconciling Indian chronology, the epoch of Mahabharata war, then the Buddha Nirvana, and the epoch of Theravada Buddhism. Another epoch I haven't mentioned here that is also very, very important, the epoch of Mahavira Nirvana, that is 1189 BC. 605 years before the Shaka era, that is 583 BC. These are the sheet anchors for reconciling the not only entire Indian chronology as well as the Tamil chronology as well as the Sri Lankan chronology. Because in the Sri Lankan and Burmese chronology, they have referred to the Buddha Dhamma era, that is the epoch of Theravada Buddhism. And later we have the references of the Shaka era references. So that's why these epochs are extremely important for reconciliation of Tamil and Sri Lankan chronology. The first, one is it is very pertinent to understand the chronologies of Tamil Nadu is interlinked actually. Initially in first my talk, I have explained the chronology from Manu to Mahabharata. And then the second session, but for the Tamil chronology, we have to understand how the chronology from Rishi Agastya to till the end of the third Sangam year. That's why I'm just taking back to the chronology from Manu to Mahabharata also. So there were three Sangam periods have been mentioned by Nakkirar. Nakkirar, he was the commentator on the Irayana Ragapporul. Irayana Ragapporul, a most ancient Tamil Sangam text written by none other than Irayana, means Mahadeva Shiva. Shiva himself wrote this text. So that is available, and probably some 59 or 60 verses are there in this one. Nakkirar wrote a commentary on Irayana Ragapporul. In the preface of this commentary, he mentions three Sangam periods and gives the very chronology, irrespective of, is just mentioning certain so many years have been elapsed. And those are linked to the sea level rise and the submergence of two most ancient cities of Pandyan kingdom, that is Tenmadurai and Kavatapuram. So he says that the first Sangam period lasted for some 4,400 or 4,440 years. It has just, he is giving the number of years elapsed from beginning of the Sangam, first Sangam period to end of the Sangam period. And this first Sangam period ended with the submergence of the city Tenmadurai. Thereafter, the second Sangam period starts from the Pandyan capital shifting from Tenmadurai to Kavatapuram. And that second Sangam period ends with the submergence of Kavatapuram. So total 3,700 years. So probably roughly estimated, probably 5-10 years plus minus, that is possible. But this is the chronology mentioned by the Nakkirar in the preface of the Irayana Ragapporul. And the third Sangam period, that is actually begins from the shifting of the capital from Kavatapuram to the modern Madurai city. And it ended after 1,850 years. If we add up all these three Sangam period, it goes to somewhere 9,990, total at 10,000, roughly 10,000 years of chronological history, starting from Rishi Agastya to till the end of the third Sangam period. So this is the total chronology given by the Nakkirar in his commentary on Irayana Ragapura. Let us reconcile this based on the chronology what I have presented in the Manu to Mahabharata and then from Mahabharata to medieval era. But for doing so, we need to have a sheet anchor for arriving the chronology, because we have to fix the timeline for the end of the third Sangam period, so that we can calculate backwards the 10,000 years when Rishi Agastya flourished, and he was the contemporary of the Shiva. This Gajabahu synchronism is the very important sheet anchor for the Sri Lankan as well as the Tamil chronology. Shilappadikaram, it is the well-known or very famous Tamil epic. This Shilappadikaram, and that clearly indicates that Sri Lankan king Gajabahu, mentioned as Kayavahu, was the contemporary of Chera king Senguttuvan. And it is the clear evidence. And who was the Cheran Senguttuvan? He was actually a maternal grandson. We can say that Karikala Chola was the maternal grandfather of Senguttuvan. Now, what we have to do, we have to arrive the chronology of Sri Lanka, starting from because Gajabahu's chronology is very perfectly given in the Sri Lankan text, Buddhist text, Mahavansha, Deepavansha. Based on that, we have to arrive the Gajabahu's timeline, and then we have to fix the date of Cheran Senguttuvan. And then we can arrive the Karikala Chola, and we can arrive the date of ending of the third Sangam period, and then we can go back 10,000 years of chronological history of Pandyan dynasty. So the Buddha Varsha or Theravada Buddhism is the sheet anchor for the Sri Lankan chronology, that is 1765 BC. So the chronological history of Sri Lanka given in Mahavansha and Deepavansha followed the epoch of 1765 BC. Based on the Sri Lankan, that Buddha Varsha 596 has been given in Sri Lankan text, that is the Mahavansha and Deepavansha. You have to minus 596 years starting from 1765 BC. So we can fix a date of Gajabahu, the first 1169 to 1147 BC. So Cheran Senguttuvan, we can roughly date 1200 to 1150 BC. So this is the regnal period of Cheran Senguttuvan we can fix around, and Karikala has to be dated prior to this. So the Karikala Chola's timeline we can fix around 1260 to 1210. This is how we BC. But what modern historians do, they date Karikala Chola in first century BC. So there is a 1200 years of chronological error. This is exactly the same what I am mentioning, that 1381 years of chronological error in dating of Buddha that affected 1300 or 1200 years of chronology. Actually, the Tamil chronology has been brought forward due to dating of this Buddha, because entire Sri Lankan chronology is based on the epoch of Buddha Varsha or epoch of the Theravada Buddhism. Since the Sri Lankan chronology has been brought forward by 1200 and 1300 years, similarly, the same chronological error took place, or a blunder committed by the modern historians, and they brought forward the Tamil chronology or the timeline of the Karikala Chola by 1300 years. So now you can imagine the dam in Kallanai Dam built in Tiruchirappalli, even today that is functional, that was constructed by Karikala. It means the dam is 3,200 or 3,200 years old. That is actually very amazing. That is still functional in entire world. It's maybe the, I can say, no such functional dam ever exists ever in India, in the world. And that is actually the Karikala's dam is still existing and functional. And the reign of last Ukkiri Peruvaladi, he was the last Pandyan kingdom. So he was the actually lived before Karikala. So that's why 1276 BCE is the end of the third Sangam period. Then what we have to do, we have to calculate 10,000 years of Tamil chronology prior to 1276 BC. So this is how I have worked out the first Sangam period, 11,226 BC. This is the time when Rishi Agastya actually chaired the first Sangam, first council of Sangam in 11,226 BC. From there onwards, you come to 4,400 years BC, and then the Tenmadurai, that was the first capital of Pandyan kings, and that was submerged by sea and sea level, because the sea level rose. If you go back to 12,000 or 14,000 BCE, the sea level was at least 120 meters below. So the rise of sea level led to submergence of Tenmadurai, and we need to do the lot of marine archaeology to find out these two very ancient Tamil cities, that is Tenmadurai and Kavatapuram. And Kavatapuram has been mentioned in the Ramayana. So that also gives that Ramayana cannot be dated before second Sangam period, because Valmiki Ramayana mentions Kavatapuram as the capital of Pandyan kingdom. So this second Sangam period started when Tenmadurai was submerged by sea. Then the Pandyan shifted their capital to Kavatapuram, and that continued till 3126 BCE. And at that time, this is the 3126 BCE. If you can recollect from my last presentation, where I said 3162 BC Mahabharata war. Thereafter, 36 years after, Sri Krishna died, and the Dwaraka was submerged by the sea. So the 3126 BCE is the period when Dwaraka as well as Kavatapuram of Tamil Nadu both have been submerged by sea in a massive tsunami. So that's why we have to start third Sangam period from 3126 BCE. Then you add 1,850 years. So third Sangam period ended 1,276 BCE. And thereafter Karikala, then the Senguttuvan and the three kings had 113 years pact. So this entire, the chronological history of Tamil Nadu is actually, I can say, more than 13,000 years of chronological history Tamil Nadu has. And the way the converted some people in Tamil Nadu, the way they claim that Tamil were a different people, it totally false. Actually, the entire Tamil Nadu has the legacy from the Rishi Agastya. Rishi Agastya was the father of Tamil language, and not only the father of Tamil language, and he wrote Tamil grammar, but also he wrote many Vedic suktas and Rigveda. So this is the, while dating Maharshi Agastya, it is perfectly, we can now fix the lifetime of the Agastya, 11,280 BC to 11,200 BC. This is the date, plus minus some 30-40 years, we can say maximum. But this gives a very accurate and absolute dating of, we can say, with the minor error of 20-30 years. This is the lifetime of Rishi Agastya. Then Shiva was the contemporary of Agastya. So the same timeline, plus minus 20-30 years, we can make the Shiva's even dating, we can do it. And Meenakshi was the daughter of Pandyan king Malayadhwaja, and she married Shiva. And this is the reason why Malaya, the entire Malayalam, or the hills of those, the range of Malaya hills have been named after Malayadhwaja, because he was a very famous king of Vedic period, and Meenakshi married to Shiva. And Tenmadurai was the first capital of early Pandyan kingdom. Thereafter, the Arjuna visited South Madurai, and there is actually the Arjuna mentioned in Tamil history. He was the son of Indra. That Arjuna was a Rigvedic period Arjuna, who came to Tamil Nadu and married one Tamil or Pandyan princess. Now, apart from this, we have one astronomical evidence, because the Canopus was named after Rishi Agastya as Agastya constellation. And this Canopus was not visible in India at all, or not even visible at Kanyakumari if you go back to 11,000 BC. So first time around 11,000 to 10,000 BC, the people living in Tamil Nadu or at Kanyakumari, they started seeing one new constellation because it is actually it became visible in Kanyakumari around 10,500 BC. Since this constellation, various other constellations already named, or Indian astronomy was well established. When the astronomers at Kanyakumari, Tamil astronomers, when they saw for the first time a new constellation, then they named that constellation after Agastya. And this is the whatever the graph or this presented by the one great scholar. So that's why, based on the calculation, we can say that Agastya has to be dated prior to the appearance of Agastya constellation in Kanyakumari. And we need to understand this Krita Yuganta. I have already explained. I don't go into the Vedic Yuga cycles. I have explained. So I'll just skip this thing. This I have already explained during my period. And this is the dating of Surya Siddhanta. Because what I'm doing, I'm actually reconciling the chronology given in Tamil text, which is totally a secular chronology, I can say, because I'm using this secular word. They generally, the timeline given by the Nakirar, it has nothing to do with any yuga or any calendar or any yuga cycles or other things. He's just mentioning how many years capital of Tamil Nadu. It's only the 4,400 years was the period. The Tenmadurai was the capital of Pandyans. Thereafter, during the second Kavatapuram. So it is only the two major events, the submergence of Tenmadurai and submergence of Kavatapuram. So these are the two great epochs for the Tamil history. And they have maintained properly that how many years have been elapsed. So that we can reconcile with the astronomical information based on the archaeoastronomical evidence, then it becomes very perfect chronology you can easily establish Indian chronology and from Vedic era to till date, and based on the Tamil, the totally very independent evidence also. This is the date of Surya Siddhanta. Then the Yuga cycles based on, I said, the prior to Surya Siddhanta, Yuga had only 5 years, 5-year cycles. Because what is Yuga? Yuga is just a beginning of a new cycle in Indian calendar. Based on that, I have worked out the chronology. The Brahma and Swayambhu Manu lived around 14,500. Then Vasishtha and first Vishwamitra, who the Vishwamitra and Trishanku story, as well as Vishwamitra, Menaka, then Shakuntala, and Bharata. Dushyanta, Shakuntala Dushyanta's son, the Bharata. So he has to be dated somewhere 13,500 BC. And even Rigveda has certain mantras written by Bharata's son. And all 4 Vedas have been compiled somewhere 10,500 to 11,500 to 10,000 BC. The Nakshatra Sukta, it refers to Kritika Nakshatra, the list starting from Kritika Nakshatra. Then the Daksha Prajapati and Rishi Agastya. This is how we have to reconcile the chronology. Then Maya Surya Siddhanta, then Ramayana era, then Mahabharata. This is the chronology where we have to put the dating of Agastya. Then arriving the Tamil chronology. This is how we can easily reconcile the Tamil chronology as well as the chronology based on the archaeoastro. This is how we can easily establish that the origin of Pandya dynasty, the Pandya, Chera, Chola, and these all 3 dynasties they were actually brothers as per the tradition. So let us work out when these 3 dynasties originated and they migrated to the Tamil Nadu and established the their kingdom. According to Vayu Purana, it mentioned that one king Janapida was the progenitor of all Pandyas, Cheras, Kerala, and Cholas. This is the Turvashu was was a descendant of Chandra dynasty or Puru dynasty. Then Vahni, Gobhanu, Trishanu, Karandhama, Maruta. This Maruta had no sons, so what he did, he adopted one Dushkrita, the son of Paurava, Puru dynasty. And then Dushkrita had a son, Sharutha. Then thereafter Janapida. Janapida had these 4 sons. And according to Velvikudi plates, Velvikudi copper plates mentioned that Buddha was the son of Pandya and Paurava was the grandson of Pandya. So Pandyas are, and all Tamil, those famous dynasties are actually originated from Chandra dynasty. So naturally, during the time of Rishi Agastya and Shiva, a Pandyan king already existed named Malayadhwaja. And this is how Shiva married Meenakshi, and even the Meenakshi temple exists in Madurai. And probably Murugan or Ugra Kumaran was the son of Meenakshi and Shiva. And they say the Murugan, generally the way they project that the Murugan is totally different from the some kind of a Hinduism and other is a totally nonsense. He was actually son of Shiva and Meenakshi. And this is how we can arrive how Pandyan, these 4 kingdoms the originated in Tamil Nadu were actually belong to the Chandra dynasty. Now, the first Sangam period. During the first Sangam period, if you can see this, the Indian map, the areas, if you see Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu was well connected. There was no way you can say that Sri Lanka was separated from the southern peninsula. It was part of Indian Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka. And a Tamraparni river used to flow from Tamil Nadu to Sri Lanka. So well connected with the Tamil Nadu. Sri Lanka was not an island during the Rigvedic period, 11,200. In actually first Sangam period, Sri Lanka was not at all a Dvipa. So then Madurai was the capital. That was actually South Madurai. Probably existed somewhere closer to this Tamraparni river as per my assessment. So we need to do the lot of marine archaeology and then find out the remains of the Ten Madurai and Kavatapuram submerged closer to that Tamraparni river. And according to the tradition, total 89 Pandyan kings reigned, and the first king was Kayasina Valudi, and last king was the Kadungan as per the details given by Nakkira. Then Agastya, Irayanar, Agastya himself, Rishi Agastya, Irayanar Shiva, Kumaravel, he was the Kartikeya. They were the earliest, the most prominent kavis or prominent heads of the Sangam period who actually chaired the various Sangams during the Vedic period. Then Agattiyam, Irayanar, Agattiyam is a text on Tamil grammar. Agastya, probably he presently the whatever Agastiyam available that has been recompiled during the second Sangam period. But originally the whatever the grammar of Tamil language was written by Rishi Agastya. And Irayanar Agappural, this text was written by Shiva. Then there is another text, Puram 2. This is Mudinagaraya. He was another very famous poet of first Sangam period. And this is the reason, I don't know when this was written. The dating, we need to do more research on. This Puram 2 was written by Mudinagaraya. And this, according to the tradition, this is the most oldest Tamil poem available today. Then Tenumadurai submerged by sea around 6826 BCE. At that time, still Sri Lanka was not an island. And according to the Aditya Kunallur, he mentioned that almost 700 kavatams of area was submerged by sea. That much land was lost at the end of first Sangam period. Then the second Sangam period, during the beginning of second Sangam period, that meltwater pulse 1C, that actually led to the sea level rise by 7 to 8 meters. And finally, Sri Lanka became an island after 6000 BC. Pandya shifted their capital from Kavatapuram, Tenmadurai to Kavatapuram. Then Valmiki Ramayana refers to Kavatapuram. Then 59 important kings reigned for 3700 years. That is the Vendir Chelian was the first king and Mudittirumaran was the last king of this second Sangam period. And the details of the poets attended the Sangam period was Markandeya, Valmiki, Gautamanar, Tolkapya. So now you can, these are the, if we consider this as the chronological list, the Tolkapya has to be dated in the second Sangam period. So it gives a very good indication that Tolkapyam was written before Mahabharata era. Presently, modern historian date Tolkapyam somewhere 800 AD or something. But actually, the Tolkapyam was written even before Mahabharata era. I can say after Ramayana era, maybe few hundred years later. So we can say that Tolkapyam was written at least around 5000 BC. So 5500 BC, we can make it. And then he was in the court of one Jaya Mahakirti. He was the Pandyan king at that time. Then Panniru Padalam was collectively written by Tolkapiyar and his 11 schoolmates during that time. So certainly Tolkapiyar lived after Valmiki. It means after Ramayana era. According to my chronological dating, Ramayana occurred 5677 to 5577 BC. That was the last century of Treta Yuga. So therefore, Tolkapiyam has to be dated after 5500 BC. And Mahabharata also refers to Kavatapuram, where the Sri Krishna attacked the city of Kavatapuram. And these are the certain references. Now the third Sangam period, it is actually lasted 1850 years. And this third Sangam period begins from the shifting of Pandyan capital from Kavatapuram to modern Madurai. And it was actually a massive tsunami, and the Kavatapuram was suddenly submerged. It is not a gradual. The Tenmadurai was gradual submergence. This was the reason why Tenmadurai was protected by very thick walls. The Pandyan kings built walls to protect the city, but they could not protect it. But Kavatapuram was suddenly submerged, so there was no other option for the Mudittirumaran, the last king of second Sangam period. He shifted to Kavatapuram. This is the reason Mudittirumaran is not only the last king of second period, but also the first king of the third Sangam period. Then the 49 kings reigned during this period, 1800 years. Then Ukkiru Peruvalidi, he was the last king of third Sangam period. And so this is not clear how third Sangam period ended. But according to my assumption is that Karikala Chola, because Chola became very powerful after Karikala Chola. Probably that ended the supremacy of the Cholas, the Pandyan kingdom. And we can how Kavatapuram and Dwaraka were submerged by sea. That is actually related to one very a celestial event took place. It is actually a crater in southwestern Indian Ocean, possibly resulting from a comet. Part of a comet or a big asteroid fell somewhere closer to Madagascar, and And that crater is almost 29 kilometers in diameter. You can imagine in the sea, that is actually a 29-kilometer diameter, as well as 3,800 meters below the surface. So the impact of that comet hit or asteroid. And this has been roughly dated by the modern scientists around 3000 BC. And according to all our Indian traditional, the Mahabharata dating other, that indicates that just a few years after 3126 BC, because according to my dating of Mahabharata, 3162 BC, and Sri Krishna left this world after 36 years in 3126 BC. Thereafter, within few years, maybe 2 years or 3 years, the Dwaraka was submerged. Whatever the event that led to submergence of Dwaraka, and the same event was the cause behind the submergence of Kavatapuram also. Now, because due to that comet hit, what modern scientists have estimated that there was a massive tsunami, almost some 100-meter height closer to the Madagascar, but that probably the same wave came towards the Indian peninsula, and that submerged probably 10-11 meters height, that the massive tsunami that led to submergence of two cities, Dwaraka and Kavatapuram, in just 2-3 years before the 3126 BC. There is a one very interesting connect with the one Babylonian tablet. This is the K8538 cuneiform tablet. And this tablet actually gives one very rare celestial event. And it actually refers to an impact of a comet or asteroid on Earth. And this tablet was found in a Nineveh city of Assyria. And the modern certain astronomers, they tried to date this tablet based on the various positions of the stars and other astronomical information available. They dated exactly 29 June 3122 BC. When I'm saying 3122 means I'm considering the 0 year. If it is, you are not considering the 0 year, then 3123. So exactly 3 years or 4 years before, after the death of Sri Krishna. So that's why we can exactly date the Kavatapuram, the submergence of Kavatapuram as well as Dwaraka in 3122 BCE. So then if we start counting there, then it may be 1272. So roughly, that is the date of the end of the third Sangam period. And now we can, thereafter, the third Sangam period, there was the most famous king was the Nedunjelian. How to date the Nedunjelian? Because there are certain very ancient Brahmi texts were found in closer to Madurai Meenakshi temple. And Nankudi Veliru Varalaru, this is the one Tamil text. It gives actually, and he gives some certain genealogy also in the text. And according to that, 201 generations of Pandyan kings, and it gives the Nedunjelian as the 83rd king, starting from Ukkira Peruvaludi. And there are certain, but the paleographic evidence, the Brahmi inscriptions found in a cave of Meenakshi Puram, even Mangulam, one inscription has been found that shows it is very closer to Ashokan inscription, probably older than the Ashokan inscription. So Ashokan inscriptions I have dated 1765 BC to 1737 BCE, when I have explained the difference between Kala Ashoka and Maurya Ashoka. So there were Nedunjelian has to be dated somewhere 1800 BCE only. He cannot be later than Ashoka. That much we can say for chronological. So then we can date the Karikala Chola, the dating of Karikala Chola. He was the maternal grandfather of Senguttuvan. So we will get the Senguttuvan date based on the Gajabahu synchronism, what I have explained in the beginning itself. The Gajabahu, the Sri Lankan king, who has to be dated 596 years after 1765 BCE. That was the epoch of the Buddhavarsha or the epoch of Theravada Buddhism. So this is how we have to arrive the date of Senguttuvan. And naturally, the grandfather, maternal grand Senguttuvan lived before Senguttuvan. So that's why we have to date in the 13th century BC, around 1260 to 1210 BC. And a festival of Adi Perukku. This is actually even today the Tamilians celebrate. It is actually they commemorate the descent of the Kaveri river. It was actually the construction of that Kallanai dam, and actually Karikala Chola brought the Kaveri waters to that area. So based on the various details, I just worked out the date, and that may be around 1223 BCE. This may be the date of the construction of Kallanai Dam. So almost 3240 years from now. And Thiruvalluvar, everybody is aware of the famous Tamil text, Tirukkural, written by Thiruvalluvar. And Thiruvalluvar was also a contemporary of Karikala Chola. How we have to, there is a poem called Kapilar Agavan, and this was written by none other than Kapilar himself. And Kapilar mentioned that Kapilar was actually a brother of Valluvar. Thiru is just like Shri become Thiru in Tamil language. Shri Valluvar or Thiruvalluvar. So Kapilar was a brother of Valluvar. And Kapilar was the, and according to this poem, Bhagavan and Adi. Adi was the mother of these three children, Valluvar, Kapilar, Atikaman. And then they had four daughters, and Avvai, Uppai, Uruvai, and Velli. So this is how we can date exactly the Thiruvalluvar in the 13th century BC. Then this poem also informs us that Thiruvalluvar was born in Mylapore. And Kapila, a brother of Valluvar, was a contemporary of Karikala Chola and Karikala Chola matter. So we can perfectly date Kapila based on his other poem, because he mentioned Kapila, Karikala Chola as well as Valluvar as his brother. There was another Valluvar. Generally, modern historians confuse about it. He was actually born in a village of Tirunayanakurchi of Kanyakumari district, not in Mylapore. So the Thiruvalluvar, the great Tamil poet who wrote Tirukkular, he was born only Mylapore, and he was the brother of Kapila. He was not a king. There was another Valluvar, and he was the king, ruled over Valavanadu territory. So these two we have to separate it out. Otherwise, that creates a confusion in dating of Thiruvalluvar. Finally, they just rejected everything and they dated Thiruvalluvar very, very late by the modern historian. And other important dates in the Tamil chronology is Jivaka Chintamani, Valayapathi. These are the probably 13th or 14th century BC. Kamba Ramayanam. The modern historians date very late, somewhere 7th, 8th century. That is totally incorrect. The Kamba Ramayanam was also a text written during the Tamil Sangam period only. And Shilappatikaram, naturally, it was written 11th century BC because it refers to Senguttuvan. So therefore, Shilappatikaram has to be dated after Senguttuvan only. In Kundalakeshi and another Manimekhalai, they have somewhere 500, 600 years. Within that, these three great Tamil epics, Shilappatikaram, Kundalakeshi, Manimekhalai, these texts were written somewhere 1100 BC to 500 BC. Then we will arrive the chronology after. Now we have worked out the entire Tamil chronology starting from 11,226 BCE, from the date of Rishi Agastya to till the end of third Sangam period. Then we have the dates of Karikala Chola, Senguttuvan, then the last kings of the last Sangam, the Sangam period. So this is the Karikala Chola. Then we have the Cheran Senguttuvan. Then Imaya Varamban Nedunjeralathan, he has to be dated. Then the Cheras, the Cholas, Pandyas had a one pact 113 years. Actually, these three kingdoms were in conflict during the period of the Karikala Chola and later. Then they came out of a one pact that, okay, we will not fight with each other and we will have a friendship. So that's why that pact lasted for 113 years. This I will explain based on the Kharavela inscription, because Kharavela invaded Tamil Nadu in his 11th and 13th regnal year. And that timeline is 1020 and 1083, 18 BC. So before that, working out this chronology, we have to discuss the date of Kharavela. How to date Kharavela? First, the Jain, because he was a Jain, I am giving the Jain chronology. The Parshvanatha, he lived 250 years before Mahavira Nirvana, and Mahavira attained Nirvana in 1189 BC. You have to date 470 years before the epoch of Kartikadi Vikrama era. So Kartikadi Vikrama Samvat started 719 BC. From there, you have to go back to 470 years, that is 1189 BC. Then we have a Shrenika, and he died in 1211 BC. And Mahavira attained Nirvana in 22nd regnal year of Kunika. Kunika was the son of Shrenika, and he might have reigned around 36 years. Then Udayabhadra shifted capital from Rajagriha to Pataliputra, but Udayabhadra had no successors. Then the ministers selected one Nanda, who was actually a son of a barber, Napita, and he was actually coronated on the throne of Magadha by ministers. And he became king of Magadha in the 60th year after Mahavira Nirvana. So that we can date around 1129 BC. This chronology is very, very important to arrive the date of Kharavela from the only one source available, that is Hathi Gumfa inscription. Let us understand the Hathi Gumfa inscription. It has been mentioned that the Kharavela, he renovated a canal in his 5th regnal year, and that canal was actually originally constructed by the Nandaraja. And he gives that 103 years have been elapsed till the 5th regnal year of Kharavela. Now what we have to do, the Nandaraja, I told, he ascended the throne 1129 BC. From there onwards, you have to calculate 103 years, and that is actually 1026 BCE, and that is the 5th regnal year of Kharavela. So you have to go back to 5 years from 1026 BCE, that is 1031 BCE. This is how we can fix the exact date of coronation of Kharavela, 1031 BC. And here one Prakrit text, actually the people generally misinterpret this Nandaraja Ti Vasasata. This has been mentioned. Some people calculate this is 300, but it is not actually 300. 10 into 3, we need not interpret like it is actually 3 plus 100, that is 103. And this also, there is another same inscription refers to Terasa Vassa Shatikam. It is 13 plus 100, 113 years, not 1300 years. Some people have misinterpreted as 1300 years of the pact between the Chera Chola Pandya kingdoms mentioned. And it is actually Kharavela claims that he actually broke the confederacy of the Stramira or Dramira. It is actually Tamila. All three, the confederacy of Pandya, Chola, Chera kingdoms, he Kharavela broke, and he actually that becoming a danger for the Kalinga Janapada. So this is the reason why, how to interpret Ti Vasasata is 103 and Terasa Vasasatikam is 13 plus 100. So this is how we need to arrive the chronology. The Kharavela, the 5th regnal year is actually 103 years starting from the coronation of Nandaraja, who was coronated in the 60th year of Mahavira Nirvana. This is how we can arrive the timeline given in the Hathi Gumfa inscription. and it was engraved, or that inscription was written in his 13th regnal year. I don't know thereafter how many years Kharavela reigned, but we can say 10, 13 years he reigned, at least he reigned 13 years. So Kharavela ascended the throne in 98th year from the Nanda Raja from 1129 BC, that is 1031, and he renovated a canal in his 5th regnal year, that is 1026 BC. Then Kharavela sacked Gorathagiri in his 8th regnal year, and he actually, the Yavana king Dimaka, he forced them to retreat to Mathura. This Yavana king was none other than Kushana king. Kushanas were from starting from Kanishka. Kanishka actually ended the rule of Nandaraja, and according to my chronology studies, the Kanishka reigned 11,050 BC to 11,015 BC. During the end of his reign, he invaded up to Magadha, and he appointed his Kshatrapas in Varanasi. And there are one or two inscriptions have been found in in Varanasi, and those inscriptions indicate that the Kushanas were ruling up to Magadha. So this was the period. So for 100 years, the Kushanas were dominating over North India. It is actually Kharavela who forced this after Huvishka, when Vimaka was ruling over in Magadha. He forced him to retreat to Mathura. So this is how the Kharavela reduced the eastern boundary up to the western boundary up to Mathura only. Then Kharavela attacked Uttarapatha and Magadha again in his 12th regnal year, and he brought back one idol of Jina, the Mahavira, from Magadha. Then he appointed one Brihaspati Mitra, probably a later descendant of Shunga dynasty, in Magadha. Then the 13th regnal year, the Kharavela wrote this inscription. Now the chronology after third Sangam era, what we have to start from Kharavela. So thereafter, there is the Kalabhras. This is actually Kharavela conquered entire Tamil region, and he defeated all three kingdoms, Chera, Chola, Pandya. Then probably Kalabhras were the feudatories of Kharavela. Probably he handed over the reign to the Kalabhras. And later they became independent, and Kalabhras started ruling over Tamil Nadu for 300 years. And we don't have much information, but Velvikudi plates mention that Kalabhras reigned for 300 years, that is 1000 to 700 BC. And then the Velvikudi plates also invented. Kadungan, he led the all three Chera, Chola, Pandya confederacy, and they defeated last Kalabhra king, and then again all three kingdoms re-established after 700 BC. This is how we can date the Pandyans' reign according to the Chola Purva Patayam manuscript. Mackenzie collected this manuscript that mentioned that Vajranga Pandya and another Pandya king, total 26 kings reigned over from 650 BC to 435 BC. Even 25 Chola kings reigned from Veera Chola to Uttama Chola, and Uttama Chola died in Kali Yuga year 3535. That is actually 433 AD. Then we have the Chera king, 26 Chera kings, 650 BC to 433. This is how we have to arrive the chronology. After Kalabhra, all three Pandya, Chera, Chola, they re-established, and almost 26 kings reigned over almost 900 to 1000 years. Go to the chronology of Sri Lanka. I'll just briefly mention, because we have already discussed the dating of the Buddha Nirvana, as well as the dating of the epoch of Theravada Buddhism, that is the epoch of Buddha Varsha. And this epoch is very, very important for the entire Sri Lankan chronology, as well as the Burmese chronology. So these are the kings mentioned in Deepa Vansha, Mahavansha, Chula Vansha. These are the three major texts of Buddhist texts. And there are many Rajavalis. Rajavanshavali's are available in Sri Lanka. Now the chronology when we worked out the chronology from Sri Lanka 1529 BC, because this is the year in which Mahinda Sanghamitra visited Sri Lanka, and the Devanam Piyatissa, who became the king of Sri Lanka in 1529 BC. And Mahinda was born in 204th year from 1765 BC. So we can exactly fix the birth year of Mahinda in 1561 BC. Now Devanam Piyatissa, who became the king of Sri Lanka in 236th year, and this is the same year in which third Buddhist council took place during the reign of Maurya Ashoka. And he sent the various missionaries after Buddhist missionaries after this third Buddhist council. So that's why Mahinda Sanghamitra landed in Sri Lanka. And at that time, Devanampiya Tissa, he became the king of Sri Lanka. And then we have the very perfect chronological information in Mahavansha. And we can arrive the proper chronology starting from 1529 onwards when you work out the regnal year. Probably there are minor errors that can be ignored. Then we will get the Abhaya and up to these are all it is perfect chronology information. You have to just arrive the chronology starting from 1529 BC. You can yourself, you can try to work out the chronology. I'm just giving the list from there onwards. It goes up to Shubharaja. Then we have the Vasabha, who was the Gajabahu first, who reigned over 44 years. Probably he was the person who was the contemporary of Cheran Senguttuvan. Then we have up to Mahasena. Then we have the this all Mahavansha and Deepavansha give the chronology up to Dhatu Sena only. Or then we will get starting from Kassapa onwards in the Chulavansha, Kashyapa to 620 BC. Then we have the Mahinda. Then and this in first century BC, the Sanghabodhi Parakramabahu, he was the very person who actually he purified the Buddhism. According to the various inscriptions, Buddhism got corrupted in Sri Lanka. Then this Sanghabodhi Parakramabahu, he purified Buddhism, and again he re-established the tradition of Jetavana in Sri Lanka. And the various inscriptional evidences are available, and the dating is given in Buddha Nirvana as well as in Shakavarsha also. So we can very perfectly arrive the chronology starting from 1529 BCE, and this goes on. So thank you. I just gave the list, the chronological list of Sri Lankan kings starting from, you can easily arrive starting from Mahavansha, Deepavansha and Chulavansha, because Sri Lanka is it was a small country. So they have a genealogical list and Rajavalis are perfectly available. You can work out, but you have to start the chronology 1765 BC onwards for the Sri Lankan chronology, and you have to arrive the Gajabahu's date, and then you equate the timeline of the Cheran Senguttuvan to perfect the Tamil chronology. This is how we have to reconcile the entire Indian chronology, and we have to eliminate the blunder committed by the modern historians in dating of Buddha, and that 1381 years of chronological error that led to loss of a true history of India. So if we are going to re-establish our true chronological error, then we have to claim this missing 1381 years. Thank you.
Sir, actually, I mean, I am now looking forward for the third book, sir, which talks about. आपने कहा कि I know it's not pertinent to this topic, but you said that Ottoman Turks captured Istanbul in 793 instead of 1453. Yes. So I am waiting for that 660 year. Whenever you are planning to bring out that book, any breakthroughs on that? And that is the first question. Second question, as per your chronology, Raja will be somewhere like 320 to 350 or something. But yes, still, I don't know whether you have watched a movie 2 months back called Ponniyin Selvan. Have you heard of that movie?
Yeah.
Even in that also they say Raja Chola ruled from some 985 to 1014. Yeah. So these are the two questions.
Yeah. first that I have perfectly given the chronology. I think you have followed also starting from Mahabharata as well as starting from Buddha to 1st century BC up to Vikramaditya. Okay. Now the reconciling the 606 years in the medieval era that I am working out, and it is almost 70% is finished. And it probably I need another 1 month. Actually, I am too busy in my office life as well as various other activities. So that's why I'm not able to complete it. But there is I can say that I'm 101% confident of bringing out that 660 years chronological error in the medieval era. How that explains it. Uh, I will try to at least a raw manuscript available on my academia page by probably in the beginning of the new year, 2023. So maybe another 1 more month, you may have to wait for that. Even I may give detailed presentation on Sangam talks in the somewhere in January or later, whenever that is there. Because that is very, very important, because I just left only few indications in my book because I didn't go into detailed, but whatever I have indicated, that is absolutely true, and there is no doubt about it. And second, that Raja, there's only Shaka problem, that 661 years. Since that whoever made that movie, they just followed the whatever the chronology is available in the modern textbooks. So Brihadishwara temple has to be dated somewhere in the 4th century, not in the 11th century, the way it has been dated.
I have a request, Vedvirji. I would also ask Ojasvi to have more talks from you about the Christian era, the validity of the Christian era, and your other books.
Certainly, certainly I will do that. We can't reconcile Indian chronology in isolation, because entire
Yes.
world chronology is interlinked, because we can't avoid Alexander. So
True.
Greek chronology has to be reconciled. Indo-Greek kings, so many coins have been found. So entire Greece chronology is interlinked with the Indian chronology. Once you touch the Greece chronology, entire Western chronology has to be explained.
Yes.
Once you are touching the Persian, because that is linked with the Persian chronology,
Mhm.
Persian chronology is interlinked with even our Chinese and all others. So it leads to the reconciliation of entire world chronology.
Okay.
Actually, chronology is a big jigsaw puzzle. You can't partially solve and claim it. Anybody touches the onus is on him to rearrange entire the jigsaw puzzle again. So that's why it's a massive, massive problem in the chronology. It's technical. I know many people may think it is too difficult to understand, but we can't help it.
In the book, second volume, you have mentioned that after the 10th century, the word Shakavarsha was also interchanged with Shakanta. So my question is, when you try to read an inscription, how will you be able to sort of discern or determine whether they're talking about the 583 Shaka or the 78? Because after approximately aapne likha hai ki when Alberuni came to India, from that time onwards, by that time itself, the word Shakavarsha had become synonymous with Shakanta also. So when you read an inscription, how do you determine whether this is the older Shaka or the newer Shaka, if they have not given any eclipses in that time?
First, we have to start with that Chalukya period, early Chalukya, that is perfectly, if you can see the paleography. Many copper plates have been found. They date the Shaka year as 520, but they use Devanagari script. But early Chalukyas, like this Pulakeshin, they refer to 530, 540, 550, the copper, the Shaka dates. But they have written much, much ancient script than the Devanagari. So that itself is an evidence, and I have shown you numerous evidences. But in a later period, everywhere Shakavarsha has been mentioned. I know this is the little difficult, but what we need to do, we have to actually link up all those, the chronological information is available, and as well as because it's only 600 years, the Kannada script has not changed much. So we need to re-establish the paleography and then certain standards to review. But it is there is nothing in the epigraphy where it rejects the two Shaka theory. Rather, actually, the entire epigraphic evidence supports and even establishes that there were two different Shakaira. But I know there is no simple way to identify dating the later inscriptions into whether they belong to old Shaka or later Shaka. Why I am saying that after the 10th and 11th century, we started following two epochs, 57 BC and the 78 AD, because day-to-day life we were following a perfect calendar. So that is actually led to a confusion that there is only one Shakaira that commenced in 78 AD. So that's why we need to reconcile it. And Al-Biruni came in the 11th century, irrespective of the 660th chronological era. And I have indicated in my book that the Somanatha destruction took place actually later. It's not the first. The Mahmud Ghazni, who invade actually that Tariq-e-Yamini, that refers to only up to few invasions up to Kannauj only. This is the reason Romila Thapar doubts that whether the story of destruction of Somnath, whether it happened or it's just an exaggeration. Actually, in the initial some Muslim texts, there is no reference to the Tamil, the Somanatha destruction. But later Muslim texts, they generally refer to the destruction of Somnath. That's why I think you have to wait for another 1 month. Let me, even whatever has been complete, I will put up that my raw manuscript on the Academia website. And this perfectly, even I'm going to explain entire Raso literature, the dates given in the Raso literature and the events mentioned, all are chronologically true. We have actually rejected entire Raso literature as a fiction, but that's not true. The Prithvi Raja Raso, the Prithvi Raja mentioned in Prithvi Raja Raso, he was the later Prithvi Raja. Whereas the Prithvi Raja, Vijaya and the inscriptions are actually indicate an early Prithvi Raja. So these, there are a lot to understand. So we, let me first complete that manuscript and let me upload it on. So you have to wait for that.